do you say to people who have a fear of updates that you're not aware of and that you don't read every night?
Right. That was exactly going to be what I was going to mention. We have to be careful with. We've already gone digital. The genie's out of the bottle with that. We have digital textbooks. That's why they even changed the name from what used to be called a textbook allotment to now it's instructional material, because we have that. But we have to make sure that we keep what's in those textbooks when it's approved, that doesn't get changed overnight. That's the fear of digital. There are some rules in place, but they're great. It's if any significant material change is made, they have to notice the State Board of Education. But as you can imagine, that's going to be a very difficult rule to enforce. So we have to make sure that we hold publishers accountable to the information that's approved during the process to make sure that they don't change it during the night when nobody's watching.
This question is along the same lines. Two people looked for the same information on the same computer with the same search engine and in the same terms, in the same word order, and got totally different search results. Given this, how can we teach our students with anything other than books and print?
Well, just as you mentioned there, the internet's scary in a way. And it's big and it's a lot out there. But this is the world that our students are going to be in. So there's got to be a middle line there between making sure that what the kids learn is factual. Like I said, it's in the textbook. When it's printed, you know what's there. We've got to be able to make sure that that's proper. But on the flip side of that, our children are going to have to research. They're going to have to look. And part of that is teaching them the process of being able to understand that. When you look for search terms, when you look at that, we can all Google something on the internet and find something that's not true about that fast. They're doing that in school now, and they're going to do that as adults. We have to teach them the right way to understand what they're looking at.
May I make one quick comment?
Yes.
That was my question. I was with a teacher. We both had the same computer. She logged in with her credentials, and I logged in with mine, and got totally different results. And it just scared the pee out of me that, information on the internet is being customized for the individual searching. And so that just leads to chaos and divisiveness. And I think we got to have books in print, 100%.
Okay, the next question. Would you recommend, how do you feel about standardized testing, like the STAR test, and would you ever recommend to do away with them as most private schools have done?
Well, there's two parts to this. Number one, I am not a big fan of standardized testing, and let me speak to that for a minute. The amount of testing we do at some point is limited or required by the federal government. So there are certain amounts of tests that we have to do. I would be in favor of doing the absolute minimum amount of standardized testing that we can do. Now, tests right now, as I mentioned a little bit, are high stakes. One test at the end of the year, you've got kids throwing up in trash cans, parents freaking out, and I mentioned the reasons for that. It's because there's so much pressure put on these kids, and they're really not even, honestly, if you're not testing the kids, you're testing the teacher and you're testing the schools, but the pressure falls on the kids. I think the answer is taking away one high stakes test to small multiple tests along the way that give very quick feedback, so that if you have 4 classrooms and you test all 4 classrooms and one of them's not getting a certain topic, maybe it's probably not those kids, that teacher may not be teaching it just right. You can see that immediately, remedy that, and fix that before it's the end of the year, and now you've given the next grade level teacher the problem. So limit the high stakes to multiple tests throughout the year.
What is your position on the explosion of jobs nowadays in our public schools?
Explosion of jobs?
Yes.
Well, I've heard this different ways from across the district, and I can speak a little bit about what we do at Lufkin ISD on the school board there. I came on about the same time we had a new superintendent, and we were able to find, I don't have the exact data, but quite a few jobs that we didn't necessarily need. And what happens sometimes in school districts is you get superintendents, you get administrators. This is a community. In Gilmer, you're going to have a community here. And each one of those people in the school district live there, they know everybody. And sometimes it's hard choices that have to be made. No one wants to fire someone, especially when they've been in the district for a long time. So what tends to happen is that teacher just gets placed over here, and then they don't do well over here, well, we move them over here. And they tend to go around in a circle, and everywhere that goes, it's not ideal for students. What I want to commend our superintendent for is she made some tough choices. We have teachers who are not with us that were here when she got here. But it was for the best for all. When we got rid of some of those teachers, we were able to pay the remaining teachers what they, a better wage because there was extra money for that. But it took care of that situation also. So sometimes it's hard choices that have to be made.
Well, I think the question, and correct me if I'm mistaken, whoever wrote the question, I think it was directed more to administrative staff.
Yeah, and if that's a question, I believe in a lot of cases, again, now, we have almost 1,200 school districts in the state of Texas. We have almost 195 school districts in my state board of education district. So you're gonna have all different kinds of answers to that. You can look at that information online. You can go to the Texas Education website, and there's a TAPR document. It's basically a data sheet or a stat sheet of the district. It's going to show their test scores and then all kinds of demographic data. And one of them is percent of salary or percent of educators that's in administration. So you can look at your school district and know what percentage of administrators do they have, and that needs to be limited to make sure that we're focusing our dollars in the classroom.
Okay. What is your definition of local control?
Local control, there's two ways that I talk about this. There's some things that affect either federal control or local control, and there's things that affect with the differences between either state control or local, as in a school district control. And my bottom line is I will always believe in local control in either one of those two situations. I've said that Texans know best how to educate Texas children, and I believe a local school board is going to know best how to educate the local students that live there. And the ideal part is if they don't, they're accountable to each of you in both of those settings. So I'm very much in favor of local control. In fact, I haven't even really brought up my opponent here. I should mention I have a Democrat opponent who's a university professor at Stephen F. Austin. We were doing a editorial board interview with the Dallas Morning News. And that was one question that they brought up, same thing. What do you believe in local control? And they referenced the Fort Worth ISD transgender issue. And when they asked me there, I said local control should always be able to decide what's best for their district. And her answer was the federal government. If the Department of Justice says that whoever should be able to go in their bathrooms, if the Obama administration says that, then that should be the law of the land. So there's one key difference between me and my opponent was on that specific question right there.
This, I believe, goes along the same lines. The question is, where in our Constitution are any powers delegated to the federal government to be involved in education or requirements for testing?
I understand there's none. So now, and there's many that would say that the Department of Education could disappear tomorrow and we would all be local ISD school board member, I would definitely be in favor of that.
The next question, Thomas Ratliff promoted more liberal issues through his term on the SBOE. How different will you be from Thomas Ratliff?
You know, a lot of people try to compare me to Thomas Ratliff during this election. And one thing I talked about, my first name does not start with a T, my last name does not start with an R, and I'm not a lobbyist. That's where he got a lot of complaints about. And I am not a liberal either. One thing that was mentioned in my biography, a member of the United Pentecostal Church there in Lufkin, and I've taught Bible quiz in Sunday school for over 20 years. I had a question asked to me at an event last week. Actually, it was by Joanne Fleming at Grassroots America We the People, and I was meeting with them. And she said, when you have a tough decision, what are you going to base your decision on? And my answer to her was on my faith. You know, there's one solid standard. And if you use that as your standard of what's right and what's wrong, whatever the decision is will work its way out right.
This one goes along the same lines as that question. Dr. Ellis, in Lumberton schools last year, they asked children to dress in burqas for diversity. Where do you stand on this and or Common Core values? And the backup question is, who backed your campaign?
Okay, so let me take the first part first. When it talks about that incident in Lumberton, and I'm not familiar with that, so let me just speak about Common Core in general and C-Scope. I was attacked a lot during the primary as being for Common Core and for C-Scope. And I have to give my opponent credit in that race where she defined me very early on, and I had to spend a lot of time and effort trying to fight that. But let me assure you, I am 100% against Common Core, and I'm 100% against C-Scope, and I want to say that by saying that I have a track record for this. On my 4.5 years on the Lufkin ISD School Board, we did a curriculum audit a year ago and 2 years ago, and we had not one shred of Common Core in our curriculum. We've worked hard on that board to make sure. The other thing is C-Scope. C-Scope, if you're not familiar, is a curriculum that goes kind of hand in hand with Common Core. We were the only district in Angelina County that did not adopt C-Scope. So again, in spite of what was said against me earlier on, I've got a track record of being completely against Common Core and completely against C-Scope. And the last question was who supported me during the election. The great thing that I feel very proud of is I had support from broad spectrums. We have essentially, there's 9 House of Representative members that are in this district. Generally, there's some that overlap a little bit, but I had 8 of 9 House representatives who endorsed me. My state senator, Robert Nichols, endorsed me. I had parent groups, teacher groups, clergy members, parents across the board. So I'm very proud of the support I had from top to bottom.